Welcome back. Thank you for listening in. We have a super fucking special episode of the Jets Group Chat podcast tonight. And I say it's special because I think we're actually coming up on the inaugural 1 year of the Jets Group Chat pod. I think next week is 1 year since we dropped episode 1. And it's a banner episode tonight because this is probably the fucking second time in history we actually have a full house and all 5 people here. So round of applause for Nick Bandoni,
friend of the pod.
friend of the pod. Nick Bandoni, friend of the pod, hopping on. Of course, Dennis has the congratulations thing popped up in his emoji.
That's actually cooler than it used to be.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thank you for listening. I know it's been a little bit of a slow off season here with content, but it seems like a good time to kind of put some stuff out there. It seems like we're coming down to the home stretch here with just kind of not only the storyline hanging over the Jets, but the storyline that seems to be hanging over the NFL Combine and leading up to NFL free agency is who's the quarterback of the Jets going to be in 2023. It seems like we're getting to a head there, and that situation seems like it's going to play itself out here as the NFL Combine gets started here. Obviously, Derek Carr is the guy right in the middle of that. Came into Jersey for a visit last weekend. Rave reviews. Apparently, it went super well. They like each other a lot. They keep gushing about one another. And then obviously met again yesterday at the Combine in Indianapolis. Woody Johnson gets on his fancy jet plane, comes and talks dollars and cents. So there's obviously something on the table there and an understanding between those two. But of course, you have the proverbial thing hanging over your head, and that's Aaron Rodgers. That's target number one. It's obviously the guy the Jets want as their prime target for next year and hopefully at least another year or two beyond that if all goes well. So they can't really make a move, though, until they know what Aaron Rodgers wants to do. Does he want to play football? If he does he want to stay in Green Bay and run it back, or does he want out? And if he does want out, where does he want to go? So that's kind of where we stand right now. But boys, like, how are we feeling? I'll start with you, Nick, as the guy fresh out the frying pan into the fire. How are you feeling about this? Who are you leaning towards? Who do you want?
So it's got to be Aaron Rodgers, right? You could have 5-6 years of Derek Carr in a divisional round, wild card round, and get booted, or you can have Aaron Rodgers and losing the AFC conference finals game. No, but go big, go boom, and go for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. Like when you look around the landscape to the rest of the AFC, I mean, just in your division you have Josh Allen, but the rest of the AFC you have Lamar Jackson, you have Patrick Mahomes, you have Justin Herbert, and we just watched how the playoffs unfolded. Even if the Jets bring in Carr, who I think is a really good quarterback, do you see Derek Carr going into Kansas City or Buffalo in round one or a wild card round of the playoffs and winning a shootout against any of those guys?
Yeah.
I know for my money, I can't picture it, but maybe he does. Maybe he turns a corner and he's in a different situation. So PJ, you say you can picture it. So I'm guessing you're leaning Carr between these two guys. Is that accurate?
No, I mean, I definitely lean Rodgers, but okay. I mean, but yeah, can I see Carr winning the Super Bowl with the Jets? Yeah, I could. Like there was a QB comparison one time where it was like question mark, right? And then it was like show this guy's stats and show this guy's stats, and they were basically identical. And the two quarterbacks were Derek Carr and Matthew Stafford, and Stafford just won a Super Bowl with the Rams. You put Carr on the Jets. The Jets, I think, have a talented team. You just continue to build around him. You got him for 5 years. I think eventually, you could win the Super Bowl with Derek Carr, yeah.
I think that's a good point because Robert Saleh actually spoke today to the media during the Combine, and he actually threw that comparison out that you just gave. He literally spewed that and compared his situation in Oakland and now Vegas to what Stafford had to deal with in Detroit, kind of a mediocre situation, not a good supporting cast, bad defense, bad coaching. And their numbers, like you pointed out, PJ, are pretty much identical to almost to a T. The yards per game, touchdowns to interceptions, quarterback rating. I mean, they're all pretty similar, and I think it is a really fair comparison. They have similar traits, similar arm talent, and stuff like that. So it is an interesting thing. And the thing about Derek Carr too is a lot of people just point to that he hasn't been able to win the big game or get over the hump in the playoffs, and that is true. But I don't think people realize either. Like
neither's Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, sure.
Let's
I mean,
be honest.
he's got the one ring, but he has his fair share of setbacks. But I mean, Derek Carr's never played on a defense that was ranked higher than like 22nd in the league.
Yeah.
Shit, that high, I was gonna say like 26.
Right. Yeah. I know it's in the low to mid 20s, somewhere like that. I think it was 22nd or some shit like that when I read it earlier in the offseason. I'm like, I mean, not that that's a tell-all sign always, but the guy's always it's on his back to kind of score a shit ton of points in order to win games. So he's never been in a situation where the pressure's off him and he could just concentrate on moving the offense up and down. He's got to always be in a shootout. So this would be the first time he's come into a defense that you would categorize as a top 3 to 5 unit in the league, probably. Spiga, what's your feeling on this whole goddamn deal?
So, like, I don't know, like, who's gonna put the Jets in the best possible position to win? And to me, it's like a window thing. You take Rodgers, you go for Rodgers, you get Rodgers. You're putting all your eggs in a 1-year basket. That's a very, very, very small window. And now what? Now you're doing this again in a year. He's not playing more than 1 or 2 years. I don't care what anybody says.
I think the hope would be you get 2. I think that would be the hope.
You'll be like the Bucks. You're like, and if you don't win, then you're screwed if you don't win it.
Exactly. What happens if he gets hurt? What happens if you go? And again, Aaron Rodgers is the standard. Aaron Rodgers is really good. However, is he the end all to be all? Does he guarantee you Super Bowl where he couldn't even win in the NFC, where the NFC sucks? Now you're going to go beat Trevor Lawrence.
Fair point.
You're going to beat Joe Burrow. You're going to beat Josh Allen. You're going to beat Patrick Mahomes. Like, who would he have to beat? Brady?
Yeah.
The Stafford, like you said, like to me, it's like a risk reward thing. Like, yeah, do I want Rodgers? Absolutely. But remember, you got to part with capital, draft capital for him. You got to pay a crazy salary. And, it's a smaller window, 1 to 2 years. You take Carr, that's a 5 to 6 year window possibly. And you're not parting with any capital.
Isn't Rodgers cap hit like $15 million like next year or something?
50 for Green Bay.
It's 50. He's due 50 guaranteed, but the cap hit isn't 50. The cap hit, I think, is because
lower.
He had
15.
No, he's guaranteed
like 50. I know 50, but like
the cap.
Against the cap,
I think that
against the cap, what number is the number that matters? Who cares? Woody Johnson,
right.
He's a billionaire, probably.
You're right. He is only going to count for like 15 mil on the cap because at the end of his deal, he has 2 void years, which aren't actual years on the contract, but they're years that he's going to get paid.
No. So Rodgers has a 59.465 guaranteed if he plays in 2023. He carries a salary cap charge of $31.6 million for next season.
Yeah, for the Packers though, right?
No, whatever team he's on.
What's his dead cap hit?
Now you're making me Google crazy shit.
Is that going to be the same number for Derek Carr?
They're saying Carr wants somewhere.
30 million.
Yeah, they're saying he's got one somewhere in the neighborhood of 35. I mean, 31's not a big cap hit. I mean,
no,
that's less than Derek Carr is going to get. Daniel Jones is looking for 45.
Yeah, good luck with that. Fucking April Fool's Day. Packers would still have to pay.
I like DC, man. DC's a baller.
That's what I'm saying. The Packers are paying a shit ton of money whether he's on that team or not. Like if he were, they're paying a bunch a lot.
Either way, they're both going to be expensive. The quarterback is the most expensive position in football. We got to understand that. But to me, it's like it's a window thing. Like, would you feel more confident betting the house on 1 year of Aaron Rodgers or 5 years of Derek Carr?
Yeah, give me that.
You know what I mean? Like it's anything could like what happens this year? What happens if Sauce tears his ACL? What happens if Garrett Wilson gets hurt? What happens if they don't fucking sign him or something stupid happens and he sits out? Like whatever. There's too many variables that could happen to derail one season.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you could say the same thing about Derek Carr though. If Breece Hall gets hurt and Garrett Wilson gets hurt and the defense sucks.
True, but then at least
they're not going to win with Derek Carr.
New York Raiders.
But then you're still looking for 2024. You still have a plan in place for the future. You still have draft capital to know, all right, now we got the quarterback figured out and they could do anything else around it. Right now,
they don't make the playoffs next year. It's a new coach, it's a new GM, and they're going to not want Derek Carr next year.
Yeah.
They're going to want to draft their guy.
That's a good point, too. I mean, you have to take that into consideration.
Then draft him and sit him. Stop starting these quarterbacks fucking right out of the gate and
I kind of like the 2-year window because it is the perfect amount of time because they could run their course. By the time that deal ends in 2 years, that's when they're going to have to pay Sauce Gardner. That's when they're going to have to pay Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. So
Elijah
Tucker.
Right. All those guys are going to be coming up for deals in the next 3 to 4 years. You're probably not going to be able to keep all of them. So, like, in 2 years, maybe it's a good time to, like, reevaluate. Where are we at? Have we had 2 good years? Who do we need to keep?
Yeah.
Who's leaving?
That's
like, if all those guys fucking bolt town or you lock them up, do you really like? My thing is, I think Aaron Rodgers is just a sweet spot. Like 2 years is cool with me, but do I want to be locked in a Carr for 5? Like, if you're telling me I have Carr for 3, like, all right, but like, I don't know that I want to be married to Derek Carr for the next 5 years. Like, I want to reevaluate where I'm at in 3 years. Like, if Derek Carr comes here and he's fucking terrible for 2 years, I'm stuck. So at least
Russell Wilson.
At least you know when you have Rodgers, you have that small window. And I think knowing you have that small window, I think motivates the guys more too. Like, shit, we got to get this done now. Like, it might escalate the level of play. Like, when that guy comes into the locker room, like, Garrett Wilson's ready to fucking
Elijah Moore.
Like Elijah Moore's never going to run his mouth again. Like, you bring him Aaron Rodgers.
That want to play with him for cheaper than they would go somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. It's a recruit, like, kind of like similar to what Brady did. All the vets came there on minimum deals.
I don't want Antonio Brown.
Yeah, let's stay away from that shit. But I don't think it's fair to compare the. It would be
get Odell.
It would be the same window time wise that the Tampa Bay had. They really had a 2 to 3 year window with it, but Tampa Bay was structured different because they already had like. Godwin was close to a payday and a veteran. Mike Evans was already paid. All the old guys were already paid. Like, this is all young dudes. They're all in their first or second year. So, like, when that window closes and Rodgers walks away in 2 years, they don't have to worry about Mike Evans is going to leave or Chris Godwin's going to leave and Gronk's going to retire. Like, it's still a core here, regardless of who the quarterback is. The core's not going anywhere.
They just got to do it again.
Right. Be available again in 2 years.
Right. So you reflect and see who's going to be available in 2 years. I mean,
Lamar Jackson.
It's a predicament. And I think that's why this is such a fascinating conversation to be had, because there's 1,000 different ways you can go. And really none of them are wrong. It's just a matter of which one you want to go with.
I would be ecstatic.
I won't be mad with Derek Carr.
I have no preference, just fucking win. I don't care. I don't care if honestly, if you're gonna tell me you're gonna win a Super Bowl if you get Ryan Tannehill, give me Tannehill. I don't care. Just I want to win. I want to win. I don't care.
Derek Carr's stats would be like put him in the Jets Hall of Fame and everybody hates him in Oakland or
Well, that's what I'm like, but it's crazy because I remember and we'll get to you in a second, Dennis, because I want to know what way you're leaning. But I remember when the offseason started, everybody was Rodgers. We need Rodgers. And the longer that it's dragged on, like if you go on, we always talk about Jets Twitter, like Jets Twitter is like 100% at this point, Derek Carr. Like, they're done with Aaron Rodgers. Everybody wants Carr now. But it's just funny how, like, it took 2 months for them to get to that point of, like, talking themselves into it and looking at his numbers and just reading about him and listening to him. And now it seems like a lot of Jets Nation is fully on board, like, the Carr thing, which I'm with it. Like, I'm fine with it. Like you guys said, you can't go wrong in either scenario. The Jets are going to be much improved whether they go with one or the other. It's just a matter of, and like you guys said, to get Rodgers, you're trading for him. So I don't know what exactly you're trading. A lot of people say you might have to give up a 1, maybe a 2 and a conditional 2, something like that. But you're going to give up some premium picks to get him here for a short amount of time. But I think his level of play is probably a little bit above Derek Carr, in my opinion, at this point. I mean, the guy won back-to-back MVPs the last two of the last 3 years. 85 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. And everybody thinks he's washed because he threw for 3,800 yards last year with a broken
thumb.
I mean, he threw for the same amount of yards as Derek Carr did last year, but he did it with a broken thumb. So I mean, is he the same guy that won back-to-back MVPs? Probably not, but he's not done. He's definitely not done. So, I mean, he could be done if he says he's done and walks away. But I think there's obviously still talent there to kind of milk out of him and get 2 really good years. I mean, who knows? Maybe he went into the dark and he's like, man, I want to play for another 5 years. Like, who the fuck knows what that guy's thinking? Nobody knows.
And if he plays a high level, who cares?
Yeah, I mean, when he figures it out, and if he figures it out and he walks into the Packers tomorrow, I was like, yo, had a coming of age. I ate some shrooms and I fucking saw myself as Broadway Joe, banging broads in a white fur coat and having parties in Times Square, and I want to do that whole deal. Like, come to Papa, because like I'm with it, man. So.
It is wild how much we're going down these rabbit holes. This motherfucker could come out and be like, I want to finish my career in Green Bay.
Yeah.
He could just like
nice.
on the whim just be like, you know what? Let's give it one more go, Green Bay. Let's do it. And then it's like, oh, all right, never mind.
What's up, Derek? What's up, Derek?
Hey, what's up, G?
Hey, big head.
You up?
It just feels like not a good scenario. Like, just from a perspective of like wanting to win, like they weren't good enough to win last year, Green Bay, and I don't think they're going to be much better next year. Like, who's out there that's going to make them better? They've had 10 years to bring in premium talent and weapons to put around Rodgers, and they let Adams walk. I mean, they have Watson, who broke out last
The
year.
NFC is also a lot easier until
Probably
you get
gonna
to
let
like
Corey Davis walk. They could have him.
Yeah, that could happen. I mean, that I wouldn't. I don't think that's crazy, but I don't know. It just seems, if you listen to what their GM said a couple days ago, like, sounds like they're just all in on Jordan Love at this point. Like, GM's like, I talk to Jordan Love and his agent every week. He's fully engaged with us. He knows where we're at. He knows the situation. And he said, we think Jordan Love's ready to start. He needs to play. And so when you say that, and you're at the same time being non-committal to when you're asked, do you want Aaron Rodgers back, and you're not committal about it, I mean, that to me says you want to go with the kid, especially being as though right after the draft, May 1st,
they got to pick up his option.
They got to pick up his Jordan Love's 5th-year option now, because if you don't do that, he's a free agent after this year. So if this kid doesn't play this year, you don't know what the fuck he got. And you took Rodgers' replacement and never played him when you could have taken a running back or a wide receiver or an offensive lineman with that 1st-round pick to help Rodgers 4 years ago. You took his replacement. You let a 4-year rookie deal expire. You never picked up the 5th-year option, and it was a waste, essentially. So I think they owe it to themselves to actually figure out what they have in Jordan Love. Let Rodgers run his course. Let him go. Play the kid. And if the kid's bad, then you know he ain't it either. You're going to have to go out and find a quarterback anyway. But if you play one more year and then you don't have Jordan Love anyway, what difference does it make? So yeah. I think it just makes sense from both sides to move on. But it comes down to what Rodgers wants. I mean, anybody that's been in a place or a job or a house or a relationship for 18 years, like, it's not the easiest thing to walk away from, especially to go to a situation that hasn't necessarily historically been a good situation. It'd be like leaving a really stable thing to come to some shitty upstart that you like the owner, they have some good young fucking investors working for the company, but like there's no proven track record there. So it's kind of like leaving this really cush job to come to some startup that could be really good if you go there.
Gotta risk it to get the biscuit, baby.
Right. So I mean, it's a risk for Rodgers to leave, but I mean, the reward is obviously high. If
but you like win in New York, it's immortality. Like, agreed. Period. Not even just like win in New York, but you
outside of MetLife Stadium.
Yeah, not even win in New York, but like you give a championship to the Jets.
I'll build in my living room
forever.
I'll help build the thing.
Hell yeah.
Dennis, who are you leaning toward at this point?
Carson Wentz.
I'm leaning Aaron Rodgers. I know I talked a lot of shit about him at the end of the year, but I can't just say no to Aaron Rodgers. If we have a chance to get him, I'm gonna go for him.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'll take Derek Carr because, like we had spoken about, his last 6 years he would have been in the Jets Hall of Fame off of those years, and everybody hated him over there. Even this year, I'll take this year.
Like everybody now, even in like Jets fandom, like they still talk about the one Ryan Fitzpatrick year. Like that was like
That's the 15, baby.
that was like the greatest like fucking year in franchise history. Like for other teams, that like a year people forget about. Like, oh shit, yeah, I don't remember that year. Like, yeah, we had a quarterback who threw for 3,700 yards. Like Derek Carr does that Ryan Fitzpatrick year every year. Like that's just
on
his
a
norm.
down year.
And
On a
like,
down year.
Like he
And
did
his
it. He almost did
mistakes
it
might be
last
down.
year.
His mistakes might be down with us because we have a defense. They could just make him like, you don't have to throw this pass, hand it off to Brees Hall. He's gonna run for 75 yards. There's no interception on that drive.
I can't wait.
My guy got benched. What, the last 3 games of the year last year? Last 2 games of the year? Derek Carr. When did they bench him? Last 2
I think
weeks.
the last two. For the last 2 games they sent him home.
I think so, yeah.
So I think he threw for like 3,700 yards, somewhere in that neighborhood.
So it's easily 4,000.
And I think 25 or 26 touchdowns. What, like I want to pull it up. Like, how many yards did the Jets throw for last year between 3 people? They couldn't have cracked fucking 3,000. I don't think.
No way.
Let's see.
I don't know. Garrett wasn't at 1,000 himself.
Jets.
2,900.
Jets.
15 passing touchdowns.
Total offensive yards, 5,400. That's just total.
Brees Hall had 2,200 by himself.
4,040.
4,040
between 3 quarterbacks.
Between 4 quarterbacks, yeah, because Strevler had 90, and they actually include fucking 17 from Braden Mann on a fake punt.
That was like week 2, right? That was early on.
Yeah, it's probably the furthest play he had all year.
But that's what I'm saying. Like,
so like Derek Carr puts those numbers up every year. Like, put it in the bank, take it to the grave with you. Like that's what he does.
Bro, we only had 29 total touchdowns. Ew.
Yeah, he threw for 26, and people want the dude out of fucking Vegas. They don't want to look at him.
That's weird.
And they had the league. Didn't Jacobs lead the league in rushing too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great offense.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying too. Like, I don't know how much the expectations offensively could change for Derek Carr either. Like, he's going to come here, but like, he's going to have Garrett Wilson. He's going to have hopefully a healthy Brees Hall more. But like, he had Devontae Adams. He had the leading rusher in the NFL. Darren Waller was there for the second part of the year.
But Darren Waller was hurt a lot. And then who else?
He was hurt.
Hunter
Renfro.
Was hurt.
Yeah.
Hurt a lot.
Yeah. And the line, I mean.
No defense.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to is the defense. So when you're playing behind all the time, you kind of have to force some things and try to make things happen. One thing I thought about too, though, and you guys have all kind of mentioned it, the road to the Super Bowl and the AFC as opposed to the NFC. I'm starting to worry that could become a thing for Derek Carr too, because you come to the Jets, there's pressure, it's New York, but the other 2 teams pursuing him are arguably in the worst division in football, in the NFC, where he'd be far and away the best quarterback in the division, whichever team he went to. Carolina has some pretty good talent.
Carolina scares me.
And New Orleans is obviously he'd be reuniting with Dennis Allen, who was his guy in with the Raiders. And I mean, I don't love the rate of what the Saints really have to offer outside of Olave. Kamara is probably going to go to prison or be suspended.
Yeah, he sucks.
So like you can't really count on Kamara to be there. So like, I don't know how appealing that situation is, but it's just an easier path to winning a division and getting
it's indoors
and dome.
And you're in a dome. They got a good defense. They've got good pieces too, but to 2021, he threw for 4,800 yards.
Derek
Carr.
48?
48. He went from the beginning of his career, he's gone up every year except for last year. He went from 32 to 39 to 39. He went down 1 year, 34, then 40, 54, 41, 48, and then had a bad year at 35. A down year at 35.
Did he break his leg 1 year too?
Yeah,
That's pretty good.
I think that was 2017.
Yeah,
But
they're
I
supposed,
think.
yeah, they're
But
supposed
he-
to make the playoffs and stuff that year.
What has he been? He's been in the league 9 years now. He's thrown for over 4,000. What? Six times?
1, 2, 3, 4.
He's a beast.
Yeah, 5 times, but essentially, I mean, the other one was 3,987, 3,937.
Right. So
He's like-
almost 7 out of 9 years he's thrown for over 4,000 yards, which like isn't always a barometer of like, oh, he's a great quarterback. A lot of quarterbacks
Right.
could throw for a good yards, and it doesn't make him like a Pro
Here's-
Bowl guy.
Here's
But, like,
here's,
But in Jets lore, they've had one 4,000-yard quarterback in the entire history of
all
the
right. How about
franchise.
this? Forget
One
yardage.
season.
Forget the yardage because yardage is whatever.
And it
Look
was
at-
Joe Namath in 1968 who had 4,007. He barely eclipsed.
forget about yards because yards or whatever it can be misleading. Let's look at touchdowns.
Yeah.
Touchdowns are equal points. Points equal wins. Right? 21 touchdowns, 32 touchdowns, 28, 22, and then 19 when he got hurt. 21, 27, 23, 24. We haven't had a Jets sniff 10 double digits in how long?
Sounds so terrible.
Patrick,
They probably haven't had 26 touchdowns passing the last 2 years combined. I'd bet.
Shout out to Glenn Foley.
Yeah.
Friend of the pod, we'll have him on soon.
Glenn Foley, soon to be friend of the pod.
I don't know, man. Like, I'll be honest with you. It's pick your poison. There's caveats to both. I don't care. Whoever's going to give us the best position to win, great, fine. Whoever it is, just fucking let me know who it is now. I'm tired of the carousel.
I want to know tomorrow while I'm at work.
Yeah, I
Oh,
want to
yeah.
know.
I'm kind of getting to that point too. Like I think even when the beginning of this week started, I'm like, let them take their time. Doesn't seem like anybody's in a like Carr. It seemed like wasn't in a rush.
I think he's
Rodgers,
rushed now, though.
you don't
Dark.
even know where the fuck if Rodgers was alive, dead on Mars. You don't know where that guy is. I just think it's so weird that he was so visible before he went into the dark, just talking about making it. He was on McAfee every week and on different podcasts, or he was on social media a lot, liking shit. And ever since that report came out, I think it was last Thursday, a week ago today, that he came out of the dark, like you haven't heard a word about. And obviously, he went on that hippie podcast that everybody's sharing shit on today, but you haven't heard anything about what his intentions are. And it's a week added to the darkness now. So, I mean, the guy obviously contemplated his future over a week ago, and he hasn't communicated it with anybody. The Packers don't know. And so he's just holding this whole goddamn thing up. And
Well, he's the first domino to fall. And once he does, that's it.
yeah, and I think it's the most important one for the Jets, because if he says, "Oh, I'm out, I'm retiring," or "Oh, I'm back, I'm with the pack," like you pull the trigger on Carr immediately. But your fear is that Carr is getting ready to kind of take the fucking seat in the musical chairs game, and he wants to make his decision. And how long can he wait for the Jets to make? Because I think his preference is to probably go to the Jets. I think the Jets are the best situation, but I think the Jets have also communicated to him that you're like our 1A. Like, we like you, but we have a couple other fucking irons burning. But at some point he's going to be like, all right, well, I need to make a call for myself. I really liked you guys. I'd
Well,
love to
maybe
come.
he is. Maybe he's sitting here saying he's like, I'm cool with waiting to see what Rodgers does. Wait to see what he does. Wait to see the compensation. Wait to see what he gets paid. Wait to see if they restructure. There's a lot of different dominoes that got to fall. Then there's the weird shit going on with Baltimore at Lamar Jackson. Like, Derek Carr has a lot of leverage, and he's just sitting pretty. He's got 5 teams looking at him. I know he wants to sign before the next week and change, but I think where he stands and what he knows and where he is in his career, I don't think it's one of those where he's going to take it personal. If it's like the Jets were like, listen, this is what we want. Here's what we can do for you, but here's what we're waiting on. He might be like, I know, cool, I get it. I'd wait for Aaron Rodgers too. He's once in a generation, but I still want to play for you. And if he says I'm going back to the Packers, like, I expect to be signed within 7 minutes.
Yeah.
After that report comes out.
You're like back to back.
Literally, like that. By the end of that day, I would expect, like right now, I would be shocked if they weren't like all terms were pretty much out there. This is what we would look for. This is how many years. This is how much money. He agreed upon it. That's why he's back, and they're meeting with him again.
But that's why I truthfully think that there's more known about what's going on internally with Rodgers, the Packers, and potentially the Jets,
it's
then's
the
out there.
combine. This is where they all talk. This is where all of that shit happens.
Like, it's obvious. It's been out there already. The Jets and the Packers have talked. Like, you can't tell me that there's not a trade agreed to already if Rodgers says that he wants to come. If Rodgers goes to the Packers and says, I want to be traded or I don't want to run it back, and the Packers are like, well, we could send you to the Jets. If he says yes, like, I think it's a done deal. I bet you they have that ironed out already.
I wouldn't be surprised if they have both ironed out.
Right.
And they're just waiting.
You can't tell me Aaron Rodgers' agent isn't at the combine or isn't behind closed doors and that he hasn't had conversations with Joe Douglas already. So that's what I'm saying. Like, because the Jets aren't acting with a sense of urgency, because if they didn't know anything about where Rodgers stood, I think they probably would have jumped on Carr already. I think they're willing to wait because I think that they know probably a little bit more than anybody else does. And that could just be me fantasizing, but I just know the way that contracts work, the way trades work, like that shit's negotiated days before it even breaks. Like, do you remember the Tyreek Hill fucking thing last year? Like, we found out about it one morning, the trade was done an hour later, but like now you listen to all these podcasts and read all the stories about how it went down.
They were talking for months.
They were the trades were worked out 3 days before Adam Schefter broke it. Like, he took the Chiefs knew they were trading him Monday and he got traded Thursday, and the Jets and Dolphins went at it for 2 days. We found out an hour before it actually the trigger was pulled on it. So a lot of this shit happens behind the scenes and we have no idea. Nobody knew Tyreek Hill was getting traded till the minute that it happened, but it was really in motion.
Kardos got that.
Oh, that was like the worst day of my life though, man. It worked out good, but I was so fucking pissed when they didn't get Tyreek Hill.
Especially to
That was a rough day.
But could you imagine if they would have ended up with Tyreek Hill and then the way the season ended up, like the shit Elijah Moore pulled with Zach Wilson? Like, what would Tyreek Hill have done in that situation?
Oh, yeah, he would have kicked him.
He would have thrown a fit. He would have been throwing the helmet. He would have been tweeting shit. And it would have only been year one of a huge deal. You wouldn't have had Garrett Wilson because you would have traded the 10th pick for him. And you'd be paying him.
No, they were going to keep 10. They were getting
but they weren't going to take a wide receiver at 10 if they had just traded for Hill. They probably would have taken Jermaine Johnson at 10.
True.
So just all these young pieces, you probably don't have half of them because we wouldn't have Breece Hall. We would have traded that pick. And so you probably have Sauce and Jermaine Johnson and no Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall with that you're paying no money. So, I mean, I think in the end we could look back and say that probably worked out for the better that they didn't get Hill because they didn't have the quarterback at that time. Obviously he's a fucking stud, but he would have thrown a fit last year and it would have just ruined the locker room. I mean, Elijah Moore asked for a trade. So, I mean, if he's pissed off, what would Tyreek Hill have done? That's the way I kind of look at it. But I just want a resolution. Like, I just want to know what's going to happen. And it feels like it's coming to a head, like in the next couple days. But I've felt like that for a week now. But like the shit that you read, it sounds like by the end of this week, first couple days of next week, like the domino is going to fall. And Rodgers even said on that, forgive me, I don't know the name of the hippie podcast that he went on, but he was talking about his darkness retreat and all that shit. He was on there for like an hour and 45 minutes. But he said like he had time to go in there. He has some finality to his decision. He pictured what it'd be like to retire. He pictured what it'd be like to keep playing. And he's comfortable with where he's at right now. But like he didn't really leave any breadcrumbs as to like what that decision is, but he's obviously like made up his mind at this point. And
I think either everybody knows or nobody knows. There's no in between. Either they all know and they're all planning accordingly, or none of them have any fucking idea. And they're just like, we're just gonna go about our business like he's staying where he is.
We should make a prediction.
That's what we're gonna do here to wrap in a sec. But he said on the podcast, he said he remembers when he was a young player back in 08 and 09 when Favre pulled this shit. And he said he remembers what a distraction it was in Green Bay, not knowing if he was going to be the quarterback or what was happening. So he said he would like to have that all figured out here before free agency starts, and communicate that to the Packers. So it sounded like he acknowledged that he doesn't want to string the Packers along. And if he ends up keeping playing, he doesn't want to string where he's going to end up along as well. So because if you're going to go to a new team, it's beneficial for them to know you're going to be there when free agency starts. So you could sign fucking players or players might want to come play with you. It only helps build the roster. So it sounds like though he actually acknowledged, like, I need to fucking shit or get off the pot. Like, I need to do this soon. So knowing that he knows he's got to figure this out before free agency, which is in about what, 10 days from now, I think is the legal tampering period.
It's like that Monday, right?
13th, yeah.
I think it opens the 15th, but
Yeah,
I
so
think
13th is, yeah.
13th is tampering, where you could actually like talk and like
They
has
signed it.
agreed to it. Yeah, exactly.
And then it's Wednesday at what, 4:00, right? Is when the gates open.
Yeah. So a week from Monday, conceivably, players are going to start to agreeing to contracts. So between now
Are the Jets even under the cap yet? Don't they have to touch people
No.
still?
No, they're like $200,000 over. They're not crazy.
Yeah,
They're
they're slightly over. But Joe Douglas said yesterday, he said from the combine that he obviously has some maneuvering, but he said they have a shit ton of flexibility to open up room, especially because they don't have any dead money on the cap in future years. So he pretty much said they haven't done any of that yet. They're waiting till he says they're going to wait till after the combine to start making cuts and restructure. Where a lot of teams now have already started doing that. He said they haven't done that. He said they have an idea of what they're going to do, but it led me to believe that, like, I don't think they're going to cut Lawson. I think they're going to restructure it.
No, they're restructuring him.
And I think they're going to extend him out for a longer period of time.
That'd be cool. I'm cool with that.
I don't think they're going to cut Corey Davis either.
It leaves a big hole if you do. I mean, granted, he hasn't been available. Your best ability is availability.
He caught like every ball that was like
thrown clutch.
Yeah,
he's hurt a lot.
Yeah, but
he's your big body number 2 that you need.
Yeah, and if you look at the wide receiver market out there to replace him, it's shit. The wide receiver class is, but you're gonna pay somebody equal or worse to Corey Davis talent wise, and you're gonna pay them more money than you're paying Corey Davis now. So
Jacoby Myers, Alan Lazard, they're all looking for like $20 million a year.
Like, because of what Christian Kirk got. I mean, Kirk had a fucking monster year. He deserved it, but like that contract set that market haywire. Like, what does Corey Davis make? 12, I think. 10 or 11.
At that point, you look to restructure him, but you keep him. He's a big body receiver. When he's healthy, he's good.
Yeah, I think they have to keep him. I think I'm leaning towards that they're going to keep him, but I think there are ways to just restructure. Maybe Dwayne Brown, Carl Lawson. You cut Berrios.
He's got to go. He's
restructure Mosley, a couple guys like that, and right there you open up some cap room. But
they've got maneuverability.
I'm so tired of Berrios just being terrible at kick return and punt return.
Yeah, he does nothing. Literally does nothing.
Well, that
drops the ball.
That's what. Yeah. I think that's the first time I was. That's the first time I was legitimately sad watching a Jets game in a long time. Was that Minnesota game?
Yeah.
Because I wanted that game so fucking bad.
Yeah, that was the start of the collapse after that.
Yeah, and Berrios was always reliable, like sure-handed, like he never fumbles punts, and he fucking dropped it right in his head.
Dropped it for Mike White.
It's Mike White's ball.
Well, boys, it was a pleasure to have all 5 of us here for longer than 3 minutes. This is definitely the longest pod we've had with all 5 of us. So appreciate you guys. Just before we wrap, though, I guess prediction, and we're probably going to call this episode the season finale, because obviously we're coming up on a year. Next episode, free agency will start. We'll make that season 2 of the Jets group chat pod. So just kind of round out season 1 of the Jets pod. What's your prediction when we talk next in the next 10 days or so? Bandoni, who's the Jets quarterback in 2023?
True Jets fashion, it'll probably be Jimmy G.
Okay, I
can't even say that.
Yeah. Okay. It wouldn't be the craziest thing, honestly. Literally, all it takes is Rodgers to come out tomorrow and say, "I'm fucking out. I'm going to play golf." And Derek Carr's like, "Fuck, I love." Derek Carr's like, "I love New Orleans. Peace out."
Minutes about Rodgers and Carr, and then Garoppolo.
Yeah,
they didn't even mention Garoppolo's name once the whole episode.
But no, honestly, that shit can happen real quick.
Yeah,
Like, that's the scary part.
it's not the craziest thing, man. Like that's how fluid all this
And
shit
now
is.
you're stuck looking at, like you said, like Jacoby Brissett, Jimmy
No,
Garoppolo.
no.
Like,
Just the
Michael,
way
what do you
though,
think about that?
I don't know, man. Just the way
Sam
that
Darnold's coming back, baby.
Geno Smith.
Still got his
chill.
just the way that Saleh and Joe Douglas have talked publicly about getting a big time quarterback this
Yeah.
offseason. I think they have to be one step ahead of where we all are, and
Yeah.
they can't end up with any of
Hopefully.
those guys. And I don't think that's on the table. I hope. Spiga, who's our quarterback in the next 10 days?
I think Rodgers goes back to Green Bay. Derek Carr is the Jets quarterback.
I'm with it.
I could see that.
And
PJ,
it's gonna happen within 24 hours of each other.
yeah, that's probably 100% accurate, no doubt. PJ, quarterback.
I'm gonna go the other way. I think the Rodgers does not go back to Green Bay, and I think Aaron Rodgers is the Jets quarterback.
All right.
Hmm?
I'm not mad at it.
Dennis.
I'm actually gonna go with PJ, but I'm gonna go with what you guys been saying that's gonna happen quick, and I think it's either gonna happen tomorrow night or Saturday.
Oh, I'm going to Kelly's if it does.
Right
I'll-
after.
I'll meet you
I'll fly home and go to Kelly's.
I'm gonna say tomorrow.
Emergency pod. We'll all get on one fucking screen at Kelly's.
So it's gonna be one of those nights, and if they're gonna interrupt
So-
the Duke North Carolina game on Saturday,
You're even calling a time frame for it to happen. But who is it?
Rodgers.
Rodgers. Okay.
What do you think, Kardos?
I still think it's Rodgers. I do. I'm not 100% confident in that, but I just feel the way that it's been talked about for weeks, the way it's been quiet on both ends. I don't know. I just feel like it's leading up to everything coming out of the Green Bay
right.
side. Everything coming out of the Green Bay side sounds like a divorce is bound to happen. And I mean, Ian Rappaport just said 2 hours ago on Pat McAfee, to his knowledge at this point, the only team in on Aaron Rodgers as his number one priority is the Jets. He doesn't know of any other team that has Aaron Rodgers as their number one.
Which means it'll be fucking the Arizona Cardinals. And
He'll be on the Dolphins. He'll be on the Dolphins.
Yeah.
He'll be on the Seahawks.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel pretty good about where they stand. If he plays, I think he's gonna play for the Jets.
And as much as I do,
he's a fucking weird dude, though, man. Like he might just fucking retire. Like
he might.
I'd be weird with
a
us.
lot of
I'll be
money,
weird
though.
with him, you know.
Like
I could stay in my 2-bedroom apartment here in Garwood. You know?
Chill.
I don't think anybody really thinks like retirement is actually on the table for him, especially the way he's talked to. But like, the dude's weird. I could just see him fucking taking a shroom tonight and waking up tomorrow and being like, "Yeah, I'm done. Like, I've had enough." And
I'm tired. I'm gonna go do
Guys,
some weird
mushrooms.
shit. As much as, like, again, I do want Rodgers, I still can't buy into him wearing number 12. I can't do it. Go back to college. Go back to college number 8. Imagine he goes like Elijah Moore. He's like, "Yo, I got 8. Get out of here."
You're
Go
right.
back. Sorry.
I'd love to see number 12 in the Jets.
I don't know. Like it's dirty.
I don't. I mean, if the dude that wore it said he wants him to wear it, like
But
he's
still, I don't know.
Yeah,
Gotta give it to him.
Probably.
I get it. All right. Well, appreciate y'all tuning in. Oh, big fucking news. You guys all know it, obviously, but let you all know, giveaways coming soon. We got the Jets group chat podcast koozies dropping. They're in the mail. They ship today. They're supposed to be at my house on Saturday. So we're going to be giving some of those Johns away. Some kind of giveaway we'll come up with once the new league year starts. But first round of the Jets group chat merch is set to drop, so be on the lookout for that. As always, find us on Spotify, Apple Pods, YouTube. What are we on socials? Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that good shit. So constant content all the time. Love to bring it to you. So without further ado, boys, appreciate you hopping on. Bandoni, appreciate you guys. PJ, be well. All the boys in Florida. Dennis, maybe I'll see you guys at Kelly's in the next couple weeks. With,
Celebrating, baby. Celebrating.
With some Aaron celebration. So until then, jet the fuck up.
Yes, sir.